Hey everyone, Bill here, and welcome back to X-Plane 11 and the seventh and final leg of my attempt to fly to each of the seven wonders of the world. I'm going to fly in the Vision Jet, the Cirrus Vision Jet, because I want it to be fast. We're here in Beijing. Um, so I am going to probably cheat a little bit on this one. This plane looks freaking awesome, by the way. I'm going to probably cheat on this one a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, um, I'm really happy that I'm done with this. I didn't want to give up on it, but it has been absolutely exhausting. I have flown as legitimately as I possibly could each leg of this journey, from the west coast of the U.S. down to South America, over to Europe, over to the Middle East, India, and now China. Just a massive amount of miles in various planes and airports, and I'm super happy I did it, but I'm happy that it's over. So on the way out to the beginning, the most easterly point of the Great Wall of China, I am going to just kind of recap this trip, and then maybe on the way back I will talk about my next plan, which I'm even more excited for than this one. But I'm also probably going to utilize X-Plane's cool little feature of being able to multiply your ground speed by either 2, 4, or 6 times. It's definitely helps for covering long distances when you're just cruising at a set altitude. So I'm probably going to take advantage of that just to get this thing over with. Again, this plane is freaking cool. Look, I just want to keep looking at it. The interior of this, the default X-Plane, by the way, this is the developer of X-Plane, goofy little dude. The interior of it is not as functional as some of the other planes that they have as a default option, but the exterior of this looks freaking amazing. So, what a cool plane. And I think Cirrus is starting to deliver more of these to customers. So I've seen a lot more coverage and pictures of these, which is pretty cool. So, okay, here is the plan. We're in Beijing, and here's Sky Vector. So we're here at Beijing, and we're going to fly east to this point. There's a little river, which you can't really see here. But that little river is right next to kind of a, it's not a port, but a little downtown region, and there's a little peninsula that sticks out, and that's where the Great Wall of China begins. It's like the most easterly point. I guess it's not really a beginning, it's just the wall kind of extends out into the bay here. And actually, let's see. Great Wall of China, eastern end. I obviously have searched for it. Yeah, so here's a shot of it. So that's what it looks like. Pretty cool looking. Obviously not going to really see much of it, but gives us a chance to fly out of Beijing. I need to... I haven't flown in this plane in a while, so I really don't remember how it works. Okay, so we need the ATIS for Beijing capital. It's 127.6. So here's COM 127.6. Okay, let's find out. Why did it go there? COM 1, COM 2. How do I switch to COM? That's kind of weird. Yeah, I really haven't used this much, so I want to go to COM 1. Do I press that? Yeah. That's careful, I guess. 127.6. Okay. All right, let's find out what runway we're leaving from. 3039.
Sky clear. Temperature 13. Dew point 6. Altimeter 3039. Arriving runways 0.
Am I going the right way?
36 left. Departing runways 36 right. 36 left. Advise on initial contact. You have Quebec.
3039. Okay. It's pretty high. Information Quebec. So we are arriving, departing runways 36 right and 36 left. Shoot. Okay, so 36 right, 36 left. So I can probably better off going on 36 left. I'm assuming that's that's the one they're talking about. Let's check Sky Vector and see. Because there's 3 runways, and I don't know which one is 36 left. Well, at least we know which direction we're going, so I'm gonna go on the very far one. I feel like the center one, because these are all facing the same direction, that's probably 36 center. Let's see, 36 right. 01, 36 right, 36 left. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Okay. Thank you, Adis. So we're gonna take a right and follow. I gotta work on my views for this. Haven't filmed this thing in a while. Single jet engine, and it's really not very powerful, but it's definitely going to be faster than any of the piston engine planes, and I kind of felt like I didn't want to fly anything more powerful than this, since we have that ground speed thing at our disposal. Which is definitely a cheater. I mean, if you're flying a flight that takes 3 hours and you multiply your ground speed times 6, you're going to blast through that flight. But if you're just sitting for 2 hours of that flight at cruising altitude and cruising speed, I don't know what the harm is in just getting that stuff over with. You know, especially when you're... Like, this is just default X-plane, so I don't have Pilot Edge, or I can't remember the more European-centric air traffic control plugin. But I'm not online with other planes or with live air traffic controllers, so I'm not having to keep an eye out for traffic or, you know, keep a tower updated with my location. So, you know, why not just kind of get the flight over with? You know, the takeoff, climb, descent, and landing is the more interesting part anyway. Now I gotta figure out where I need to go. In other news, I do have my first, I guess it's my introductory flight for my real pilot's license, which I haven't 100% committed to, but this will be my first time up in the air in a really long time. So I'm excited for that. That's in a couple of days. And if I do really decide to go for it, I probably will get Pilot Edge, and at which point I'll probably try to do some videos on setting that up, because that, you know, having flown with my dad before, when I was younger, I have a feel for how the plane operates and how to actually physically fly. But it's that the radio communication stuff that um, is really kind of intimidating, and it would be very helpful to get that extra training on the simulator, and then when it's time to actually get up in the air um, in real life and communicate with those guys, to have the confidence to really say what I need to say, and not be intimidated by that portion of it, and focus more on the flying safely part, which I would have to imagine is something that a lot of new pilots do, is that they're so nervous and worried about saying the right thing over the radio that they kind of forget that they're flying a plane, and get distracted. So yeah, I should probably hold short here and make sure that no one's coming. So yeah. Alright, so I'm going to be taking off to the north, and then immediately going on, basically heading 100, just a little bit south of that, and then going to the coast. So let's get this thing going. I love this plane. It's so cool. Kind of squirrely there. What that was about. Whoa. Yeah, something's feeling a little bit weird. It is moving all over the place. I wonder if it... Let's get that ATIS back on and see if I just was not paying attention to it being really windy. Wind shear alert. Yeah, that would do it. Wind variable 20 gusts. Yikes. That would do it. I really should have paid attention to that. That's really funny. I mean, it kind of shows you how good the effects can be on this, where even when you're not physically in the plane feeling it toss you around a little bit, you can just tell something's wrong. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So there's... Wow, it's real choppy. So let's get out of this thing. Got good speed though. What direction was it going? Did it say variable wind? There, 350 to gusts. Interesting. Okay, so where's heading, we'll get that going here. Okay. Autopilot heading. It's gonna be fighting a lot. And let's go vertical speed. Feet per minute. That should be good. We're probably going to only get up to... we don't need to go too high. I don't really want to spend too much time climbing. It's really windy. Look at that. I don't know if I've really done a flight that wasn't on purpose with this much wind and turbulence. That's crazy. So if you go into the flight configuration thing and go to weather and click customize. You don't have to actually change anything, but um, gusts 126 knots. What the hell is happening in China right now? Whoa. And it's clear out. That's kind of weird. And this is on Match Real World. Yeah. That's very strange. I wonder if Sky Vector will be of any assistance with that. Yeah, there's some storm just south of Beijing that we're north of. I don't know if if it is really going to show that accurately, but yeah, there's some like crazy system that looks like it's 50 miles to the south. So that's probably what's causing a lot of this turbulence. Interesting stuff, but that's okay. We're still going 200 knots as long as we keep moving. Okay, so this trip, now that we're somewhat settled, do I have it on full power? No. I'm just gonna keep this thing at almost maxed out. I didn't have to buy this fuel, so I really don't care. But this trip has been, like I said, really exhausting. I mean, it's been a lot of flying, a lot of learning along the way, because I wanted this trip to kind of force me to do flights that didn't get repetitive. And ironically, the not really random, but the unrecognizable locations has kind of made it a little bit tough, because I'm just flying in areas that are super random, and it has gotten tiring as a result, and especially because a lot of the information available, especially on Sky Vector, for the planning stuff and internally for X-Plane, there's not a lot of that information for some of these really obscure airports that I've flown to. Like leaving Beijing, that's probably the biggest airport I've flown out of since I left Rome. So it was kind of nice to have like a full 3D big animated airport. But it has been cool to get a feel for the relative geography and how far and close things are together from one another, and also kind of landing at airports on the fly without trying it out first. I mean, I had never left Beijing, and it is kind of fun to check the charts and find the ATIS and get the information and look at the layout. So that's been kind of fun. We're coming up on 10,000. I think I'm gonna keep it at 10,000. 95 miles. It's also been kind of fun. The actual planning of it has been challenging as well, because I have to figure out what airports I'm flying to, what plane I need to fly, which obviously most pilots don't have that luxury to be able to select different planes for different trips too often. But if there's a flight that's particularly long, I can take the 737, and for the shorter ones, I can take a general aviation plane, or one of the like the King Air or something. So that's been very educational, using Sky Vector to plot out distances and locations and get the airport information. I've learned how to do that, and then plugging the flight plans into SimBrief and working on autopilots and the FMCs for the airliners has been really good. But it's just been kind of fun and rewarding to be able to fly to all these different locations that I normally never would have. I mean, flying out of Beijing, I mean, that's kind of like a big airport, so like maybe I would have done a flight out there, maybe, but you know, I don't think so, and I would definitely be going this direction at this altitude and looking at this geography here. It's pretty cool. Let's see where we are. So this LUX VOR right here is pretty close to where we need to be. It's about probably 3/5 of the way there. So luckily we're going pretty quick. I mean, almost 290. And I don't know what the wind direction is doing right now, but so we're making pretty decent time. Let's make better time though. So the way the binding for this ground speed thing on the default X-plane, you can change it to whatever you want, but it's Alt T. So if I hit Alt T once, I've got 2 times ground speed. So now I'm going over the ground 600, you know, basically 600 miles an hour. Just kind of roughly do it. I know this is not, and it doesn't translate exactly to ground speed, but I just kind of, I mean, doing under 600 miles an hour. Times 4 times 6. So this is fast. And you can cover a lot of ground, but what I've found is that the simulation does not like this in autopilot mode, and you get in this violent up and down, which you can see right here. So there's 3,600 feet per minute dive up to almost 8,000 feet per minute climb, just from doing that ground speed thing. So that is totally annoying, and I don't know if everyone experiences that, or if it's a function of settings that I might have, or the processor that I have. Probably going a little bit too fast for this one. 350, moving pretty good, but even just doing that for a couple of seconds, we're now halfway there. We're going right here. So we're almost halfway there, and it's still bucking like crazy. So I'm going to turn that off, settle this thing down. And heading, we need to go a little bit. That should line us up. I would like to try, I know there's some expansion, I guess you could call them expansion packs for this plane that makes more of the G1000 function properly. As it is right now, this whole side is completely unusable, and most of these buttons don't work. So like any of the flight planning stuff, you don't have access to, which is kind of a bummer. And most of the stuff functions like the 530 does, but they just don't have the functionality in the G1000, which is a bummer. nicely. Let's take a look from the inside. Such a sweet plane. Love that. Such an interesting shape. I mean, it from certain angles it looks kind of goofy with that teardrop canopy. Like, I don't know if it's super flattering from the side. This angle looks pretty cool, I think. Straight on looks cool. This angle looks cool. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to turn the autopilot off, keep an eye on the heading, and hit this ground speed a couple times. Let's get it going. Now I would consider this not fully legitimately doing the flight, but there's no traffic, so fast forwarding the portion of the flight where you're just going straight, I do still think it's cheating. It's more legitimate and impressive to do the whole thing in real time. That being said, this isn't the worst. So there is something pretty interesting that I found. I have already done this flight, and I did record it, but the recording didn't work. I don't know what happened. There was something wrong with the capture software, and when I was doing the flight, I saw this little feature over here, and I checked on Google Earth, and this is kind of like a Dubai style man-made housing, and they've filled in more of these little cross sections, which I thought was kind of cool, so I might loop back over that once we check out our location here. So this is it. This is where the Great Wall of China begins, right here on that little lip. And just kind of a really indescript, geographically speaking, area, and just heads off into the hills here and keeps going for a long way. And the weather decided to do a little update. And we're still hauling ass, 280. So from Beijing, what was it? This is the Sky Vector straight line, 150 nautical miles. So that's a good trek if you try to drive out there from Beijing. That's a couple hundred miles easily. But it did look cool. And this body of water here is the Bohai Sea, which I am probably not pronouncing that correctly. And then from there, the Bohai Sea goes into the Yellow Sea, which separates China with North and South Korea. So we're not too far from North Korea right now. Luckily, this is a virtual world, and they won't give us any harm, or give us any trouble. There it is, right there. The beginning of the seventh wonder. Man, that feels good, even though I've already done this. It feels good to have done all 7 of them. It's pretty cool. Just heads off into those hills there. And this, when I was looking for airports and how to navigate this portion of it, there's a lot of information that has not been updated through X-Plane and on SkyVector, because there's some airports that I think should be here. Like Google Earth shows an airport just right here. There's a little runway, and it is nowhere to be found on SkyVector or in X-Plane, obviously. So that's kind of weird. It would have been nice to just have a nice runway right here, but it is not there. And this is kind of a small detail, but the leather on that dash piece looks really cool. So there we go. There's the Bohai Sea, Great Wall of China, ending in the Bohai Sea. These cutie little sailboats out there. They're probably having fun today with 120 knot gusts. Okay, so now do I go back to Beijing? Yeah, I go back to Beijing because I'll tell you why. I think I'm going to legitimately fly back to the US, and leaving from Beijing would help with that. I'm not going to go direct from Beijing because I don't have a plane currently that has that range. I guess the 747 could probably do it, but I freaking hate that plane in this game. I have not been able to get that thing to work, and I've read like everything possible on procedures and all that stuff, so I don't know, maybe I'll give it one more shot. Times 6 speed. 1,800 miles per hour. I just wanted to zip over here and check this thing out. Super weird. I mean, that has to be a major undertaking, and something that you'd expect from Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I think it's Dubai, but Eastern China. I mean, I guess Beijing's got some serious money, but that's pretty accurate. I mean, whatever they use to make this this scenery, they probably just didn't have this finished. So there's like, I think 3 or 4 more of these little cross sections out there. Bizarre. How bizarre. Right, let's get pointed in the right direction. Now let's see actually if I have, well, you know what, I'm going to go to, turn right out of hand there. I'm going to go to SkyVector and Beijing Capital. Let's see if they have a VOR that I can... Yes, they do. Okay, so the VOR that is closest, there's 2 of them, none actually over the runway. Guangzhou, maybe? And that frequency is 114.7. 114. Flip flop that. So that's nav 1. That should be this here. And how do can I manipulate that at all? Probably not. So pay attention to where I'm going. Okay, no, that manipulates that. Okay. So if I'm tuned into that, I'm going to keep swinging this around till it lines up. Okay. So I'm going to swing over a little bit to the south, get that lined up. This thing is definitely maneuverable, but pretty touchy. And we must be going into the wind. Look at the airspeed now. It's almost 50 knots slower than it was going out there. Although that is airspeed. So I wonder if that means that we are actually going faster with the tail speed. Choose not 200, no. Alt T is my best friend right now. Okay, so while we are on our way back to Beijing, I have an idea for my next, I don't want to call it series, that makes it sound way more legitimate than it obviously is. I wouldn't call 40 views really part of a series, but I appreciate all 40 views like you guys wouldn't believe. So if you're watching this right now, thank you for watching it, and I hope it's entertaining, informative, or just a way to pass some time at work or something. But especially if you're a bunker watching this is way better than a podcast. But the next trip I want to do is I want to do flights and land at the top 10 most dangerous airports. There's a bunch of lists out there, and I want to pick the list that looks most interesting and kind of stick to that list and just go through each airport and land with real world weather. The only exception being I want it to be visual flight rules. There's no point in trying to do that with zero visibility, but as far as wind goes, real world on that, and as close to real world with visibility as well. I mean, if it's 10 miles of visibility, that's fine in most cases, but if it's anything less than that, probably that would not be very fun. I did that on a couple of the airports that I found in a few lists, but I want to do it kind of more methodically. So take off either from that airport and loop back around, or take off from the nearest airport, which is probably what I'll do, the nearest runway, to that airport and land at it. And probably switch up planes, but I also don't want to get too crazy with different planes. I want it to be difficult, like St. Juliana. That's the famous runway over the beach and people getting blown over by the jets and all that stuff. For that one, doing that in a Cessna or Beechcraft probably isn't that exciting because it's just a commercial runway that's up against the beach. So I'll probably do that in the 737. But most of the other dangerous runways are dangerous because they're either really windy, typically, or the runway is super short. Which obviously a 737 is not going to be landing on a 1,400-foot runway. So that's my plan. It's not going to be as it's not going to follow like a geographic pattern like this one does, so I can do them in any order, geographic order I should say. I'll probably just do them as I want to, but that is, I think, what I'm going to do. So if that sounds like a good idea, let me know. If you think that's really stupid, shut up, I'm doing it anyway. No, but you can let me know that too. And I just noticed that having been at 6 times ground speed, we popped up to 19,000 feet, so that's cool. I'm going to land on 3-6 left, which is the same way. I'm pretty excited for that, because some of these, what I found out with the default X-plane is there is nothing in the way of man-made sites, but it does do a really good job of recreating geographical sites, so rivers, mountain ranges, specific mountain peaks. It's spot on. I mean, the Grand Canyon, it's got that. But the other thing that it has that's very accurate is the runways. Runway location, weather conditions, runway length, all that stuff is very accurate. So I feel like rather than what this has been, which has just been flying to a spot going, hey, yeah, that little clearing is where Machu Picchu would be. All right, let's fly back. Having the destination be an airport, be a runway, is probably going to be closer to real life and hopefully be a little bit more interesting. I hope that's the case. If not, oh well, I'll just be learning how to land. So, getting down to 10,000 feet. Still moving pretty good. 270 knots. And I'm just going to do just a straight in approach. Turn on to 360 heading. Positive that this has LS. Let's see. Approach. So each runway, ground 1, ground 2, ground 3, 4, 5, 3 towers. So there's a tower for specific runways. Holy crap. That's pretty crazy. So this is going to probably be a pretty hairy landing with this wind situation. It's pretty bumpy. It's pretty bumpy. I'm going to get the probably too fast for flaps. Yeah, way too fast. But 4,000 looks pretty good. Should give us plenty of glide slope. Yeah, if we had that G1000 working right now, this would be super easy. I mean, it'll just fly sits and stars. And the G1000 heads-up display, I mean, it shows you like 3D little checkpoints that you basically fly through these boxes. I mean, it's like Star Fox. Like you fly through these little boxes that are suspended in the air. Alright, where's our 3.6 left? There it is. Ooh. A little bit slow there. Let's get that first flap in there. Ooh, yeah, this is going to be a bumpy one. I hope no one has motion sickness. This is crazy. Yikes. Yeah, this is going to be probably the windiest landing that I've had. Oh boy. And I have no navigation to know how far out we are, so that kind of sucks. Getting lined up there. Man, this is like super bumpy. Good lord. That windsock is probably just frickin' pegged. Okay, so we're lined up there. Let's get the gear down. Alright, well, what kind of I thought was going to be a pretty boring, uneventful, get it over with flight is turning into sketchy as hell landing time. Okay. How are we glide slope wise? Okay. Man. Yeah, this is real sketch. And it seems to be just bumpy. I don't get the feeling that I'm getting pushed necessarily in any one direction. It's just bouncing all over the place. Ugh. I'm starting to get motion sickness. Okay, lined up okay. Again, I don't know what direction the wind is pushing us yet, but God, that I can't even zoom in. It's like too bumpy. It like makes me sick looking at it. I'm just gonna have to line it up as best I can and hope that the winds are in our favor. Alright, the airspeed, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the airspeed here, and it's like, look at that, it's jumping all over the place. There's like 10 mile an hour, 10 knot bursts, so there's 50. Down to 42. Back up to 48. Yeah, so this is pretty nasty right here. Let's get that last bit of flaps in. Nose up a little bit too much. Alright, so I'm definitely on a steep glide slope, but not really knowing what the wind's doing. I'd rather be high than low. And all of a sudden stall it. Good heavens, this is freaking crazy. Okay. Okay, I just caught a glimpse of the sock. It's just like not letting me touch down. I can just get super lazy on this runway though. It's freaking long as hell. Okay, so that could have been better. Oh man. Yeah, that was definitely floating. That would be an understatement. That was ugly. Let's check it out. Pause it. Let's get back. That's probably a good spot, right? Just so much movement. You can see the windsock is over here to the right. You might not be able to see it. Just fluttering all over the place. So there, like, I was in a pretty good spot there, and then it just kicks up. Like those gusts are going, you know, I'm going into the gusts, and every time it jumps up 10 knots, it just screws up the glide slope. So that was a hard landing, but I didn't want to let it go too far. Let's see what it looks like from. Nope, that's not gonna work. Where you at, views? Yeah, right there would have been the time to touch down. Yeah, that wasn't too hard. Unpause. All right, well, again, if you've watched it to this point, thank you. This has been a lot of fun, super exhausting, really educational. Tons of hours flying this. I have improved a ton, which is not saying a lot because I am still complete novice at this, but I definitely have a much higher comfort level of certain aspects of doing this. Kind of mainly the navigation stuff, and that's kind of what I've had to focus most on, is where to go and how to pick that. Now, whether it's navigating over a mountain range or trying to find an airport in between to get there with enough, to have the range to get to a certain location. So that's all helped out big time in my learning process. And I think the next challenge going to these different dangerous, difficult airports and runways, that I think will help me with more of the feel for the plane and the feel for what I have to do to touch down nicely, because my landings freaking suck. But I am jumping around different planes, and that's kind of why I think maybe I just stick to the Beechcraft. So if you want to weigh in on that, if you want to see me stick with one plane or pick a plane that is at least appropriate or realistic to whatever airport I'm landing at. I'm going to stop it over here. So I'm going to kind of lean towards maybe flying the crap out of that Beechcraft and maybe with the exception of Princess Juliana. Um, that might be the way to go, because a lot of those runways are dangerous because they're just like super short. So, unless anyone has anything different to say on that, I think that's going to be the plan. All right, get out of here, you bastards. Thank you again for traveling with me for whatever amount of time you did. It was a ton of fun. So, again, thank you, and I will see you next time. Peace.